Welcome back everyone. In this lecture, we are going to do the actual installation of UCCX server. With that said, let's take a look at the next slide. We have the few installation steps that we discussed already in the last lecture, but we will be going through one by one and do it in the actual lab. So first one is download the OVA file and have the ISO image ready. So to download the OVA file, let me navigate to the cisco.com. So you have to be in the download homepage and navigate over to customer collaboration, contact center, and you would see the Cisco Unified Contact Center Express. And we are going to install UCCX 901. So click that. And then we're going to download the OVA files that would be available here under Unified Contact Center Express virtual machine templates. If you're looking for the actual software, actual ISO image, you can go to this link and download the link. I already downloaded that ISO image and uploaded to the data store of the ESXi host. Let me go to this right now, and then you would see two different versions of OVA files. One is VM version 7 and VM version 8. I already discussed. We should be downloading the VM version 8, which is for ESXi 5.x BIS version. So I have already downloaded this file for you. So let me go ahead and open up the folder here. So this is the OVA file. This is the original OVA file. I have duplicated it just to show it in the Notepad++ to see how it looks like exactly. I don't want to disturb the original file, so I copied it and I edited and opened it through the Notepad++. You can see that this OVA file contains which basically a virtual machine template which provides information about the the actual VM virtual machine settings, the Ethernet information, the all the hardware resource information would be provided here. And you can see that this OVA has three different deployment options. One is for UCCX with 100 agents, and UCCX with 300 agents, and UCCX with 400 agents. So this basically the basic difference between these three is the hardware resources. If you opt for UCCX 100 agents, you would see that it's going to need two virtual CPU with 900 MHz reservation and 4 GB of virtual RAM and one virtual hard disk with 146 GB. And if you go for UCCX with 300 agents, the other resource is going to be the same, but you would need two virtual disks each with 146 GB of size. And if you go for UCCX with 400 agents, you would have to provide 4 virtual CPUs and 8 GB of RAM. So that's basically going to be the difference. So when you look at the OVA file, you can understand it's going to provide the VM settings. And as I said earlier, this also provides information about the VMDK, but it doesn't contain any data on it. It's just going to provide the geometry. What is the size of the virtual hard disk? How many hard disks should be there? So you get the idea about what is OVA here. So with that said, let me go ahead and open up my ESXi server, which is here. And I have the ISO image already downloaded. So next I'm going to deploy the OVA template. Let me navigate over to my ESXi host, go to File, Deploy OVF Template. And I have already chosen this. It's already in my download. So just click Browse and you just have to choose your file. I have already chosen the file. Let me click Next. Okay, I believe I already moved the file. So let me go over to Software. So it's under UCCX folder. It's here. So let me click next. So here you can see this Ova templates. This is for the product UCCX and for version 9.0 and the size of the disk. So this is basically a virtual machine template, right? So I have to accept the end user license agreement and I have to provide the name here. So I'm going to give it a name, Cisco UCCX. It's 901-01, which is the first node, and the IP address is going to be 192.168.9.15. I like to give it like this so that whenever I see the virtual machine name, I know that this is the IP address of the server. It's up to you. How do you provide the name? Let me click next. Here is what we discussed in the Notepad++. We saw that 3 different deployment options. So we can see those here. I'm going to choose 100 agents. This is just for lab purpose because I don't want to provide much hardware resources to the server. So I'm going to choose UCCX 100 agents, and you can see this hardware specifications here. And if I choose, for example, 400 agents, you can see that it changed. It changed memory from 4 GB to 8 GB, and it needs 2 virtual hard disks. But for this lab, I'm going to choose UCCX with 100 agents. Click next. And I'm going to place this VM inside this resource pool UC9.x cluster. And if you're doing it in production, it is recommended that you should do the thick provisioning, but this is for my lab. I'm going to use thin provisioning. The difference is when you click the thick provisioning, it's going to allocate the complete virtual hard disk space. So it's going to reserve the 146 GB of size. It cannot be used by any other VM. When I do thin provisioning, it only allocate the hard disk that is being used by the virtual machine. For example, once after the installation, the UCCX virtual machine size would be somewhere around maybe 10 to 15 GB. It's only allocate that. As long as the virtual hard disk size grows, the ESX server allocate the hard disk to it. The purpose of doing this is you can do the over provisioning of hard disk in the ESXi host with thin provisioning, but with the thick provisioning you cannot do it. But in the production, it is recommended that you should do the thick provisioning to get the better performance of the system. So I choose thin provision here for my lab and click next. And this is the Ethernet, this is the network adapter. Only one network adapter we need, and that would be used for normal network traffic that is being generated and terminated to UCCX, and also for both the recording and monitoring components. So I'm going to choose the network 9.x, which is basically a port group that I have created. And these are the deployment information here. We are going to give it the name of this, and this is for 100 agents. And we're going to do the thin provisioning, and Ethernet 0 belongs to the port group VM network 9.x. So that's all about this. Let me go ahead and finish this. So you could have seen that once I click the finish, it's deployed. It's a VM, and it deploys a VM as a template, and you can see it here with this name. You see UCCX 901-01 with this IP address. Still, we have to go ahead and mount the. You remember that I said this is going to just create the virtual machine. It doesn't have any kind of image or any kind of data on the hard disk. So we would be doing the installation from the beginning. That means we have to go ahead and mount the ISO file. My ISO file is already uploaded to the data store. Let me click this connected power on. Let me browse to the data store, and I have the ISO file here, which is this UCCX 901. Click OK. So this is selected. Let me make sure everything is selected properly. Yep, looks good. Let me click OK. So we are done with deploying the Ova template for now. Let me navigate over to the slide. So we deployed the Ova template. The next point is we're gonna generate the answer file. So what is the purpose of generating the answer file? When I create the answer file, we can do the unattended installation of the UCCX, so you don't have to sit in front of the machine and provide all the information like host name, IP address, the DNS setting, the NTP setting. You don't have to provide any information at all during the installation. So let's see how can we create the answer file. Let me navigate over to the browser. You can Google it for CUCM answer file generator. You would get the link here. I have already opened this here. This is the page where you can generate the answer file for almost all of UC servers. Basically, I have to provide the information like what is this product is for. You can see two options here, the physical server and virtual machine. This is going to be a virtual machine if you're doing it for 10 and above, because you cannot install the 10 or above in a physical MCS server or equivalent specs based server. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my UC application here, which is Unified Contact Center Express, and it is version 901. When I do it, I have the option to select it as a physical server or as a virtual machine. Keep in mind that when I click the virtual machine, right, it's going to provide me the license MAC. So the license MAC can be obtained from the server after the installation as well, but this will provide the license MAC ahead of time so that you can contact the Cisco and ask them to generate your license file. You don't have to wait for the installation to complete. The thing is like, what is the purpose of this license MAC? Because this is a virtual machine, so you don't have a burned-in MAC address for your NIC card. So your NIC card is going to get a dynamic MAC address from the resource pool of the ESXi host. In case if you do vMotion your UCCX server from one ESXi host to the another, it might get a different MAC address. So Cisco did not tie the virtual machine MAC address to the license MAC like a physical server. If you are installing in a physical server, your license MAC is tied to the burned-in MAC address of your NIC card. But in the case of virtual machine, it's not possible because when you do the vMotion, you might get a different MAC address. Depends on the configuration you do in the VMware vSphere. So what Cisco done is they did a good job to get the license MAC based on these parameters, like the time zone of the primary node, the NTP server 1 IP address, the next speed and duplex settings, IP address of the server. You can see all the information here. So you're gonna get the license MAC based on the hash that is being generated from these values. In case you install the server, you obtain the license from the Cisco licensing team, you upload it to the server and it's running for some time. For some reason in the future, if you do any changes to these parameters, it would end up in generating a different license MAC and your server would run in a demo version. So you have to contact the Cisco again and ask them to regenerate the license file for you based on the new license MAC. So I believe you got the information about what is this license MAC is all about. So let me go ahead and provide the details here. I'm going to give the administration user ID as admin, the password here. Let me confirm the password. And the security password is for, like, if I have two nodes in the cluster, if the secondary node want to join with the publisher, it go ahead and authenticate itself with the publisher. The security password should match in both the nodes so that it can join the cluster. Let me confirm the password. And this is the application user. The administration credential is for OS administration, and the application user credential is for UCCX administration or app admin page. Admin. Let me confirm the password. So organization, it's up to you. An SMTP host is optional at this point, and you cannot change the setting because you selected as a virtual machine. You cannot change the setting here. And host name is UCCX 901-01. The IP address is 15. 9.1 is the default gateway. So as I said earlier, the DNS configuration is going to be mandatory. I'm going to give my DNS server IP here, which is 1.89. The domain name is slhl.com. The time zone is Asia, and Asia Kolkata is the time zone. So Ntp server, I have a local Ntp server, which is 1.254. And here you can add the secondary node information. So up to this point, you have provided all the information which are for the primary node, and from here you can provide the information about the secondary node. So this is going to be the same, no change. So the network information, so I'm going to provide the name UCCX 901-02 for the second node, and the IP address is this. This is the default gateway. Okay, so I'm going to use the DNS setting that I configured for the primary node. That will auto-populate the information here for you. And I'm also going to use the primary node's time zone as well. So once I'm done with the configuration, apply the parameters, click the add secondary node here. Then click the generate answer files and license MAC. Here you can see that this is the license MAC. You can note it down. After the installation of UCCX, you can log into the UCCX and check and make sure this is the license MAC you got after the installation. And click proceed to download answer file. So you have the option to download the answer file here. When you click download file, it will provide the XML file for you. Just copy all the data, Control A, Control C, and I'm going over to the Notepad++ and paste all the information here. I'll just make sure I'll remove the extra space here. And one thing you have to keep in mind, when you save the file, when you save this file, make sure you have to save with the file name of this platformconfig.xml, which is case sensitive. Please make sure you save the file with this name. So I'm going to save the file as this in my desktop, which already have some file. I'm going to replace that file. It's not a problem. So I'm done with that. So what is the next step? Like that, you have to generate the license for the secondary node, and you have to save the file with the same name. So once I'm done with that, the next step is I have to put this file, I have to put this platformconfig.xml file inside your virtual floppy disk so that I can mount the floppy disk to the virtual machine, to the UCCX virtual machine, so that during the installation it can pull the XML file and it can use it for the installation. So we have created the answer file for the installation of UCCX, and then we save that in the desktop. And with that said, I'm going to stop this lecture for now, and I'll catch you in next lecture, and we'll continue with the installation of the UCCX. Thanks for watching.